I'm Neil from Legends Podcast, a podcast member of the GonnaGeek network, just like the one you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual. Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready, because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
You have been granted clearance by Director Phil Coulson. Stand by for S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. Director.
Now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Agent Stargate Pioneer.
I'm Agent Haley.
I'm Agent Lauren.
Oh, and I'm Keir.
Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a Marvel Comic Universe podcast. This is podcast number 88 on Daredevil Season 1, Episode 13, Daredevil. This podcast is recorded on Wednesday, September 2nd, 2015. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the ABC television show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel's Agent Carter, Marvel's Daredevil on Netflix, and the general Marvel Comic Universe.
Because this is our city, our family!
If you'd like to talk to us about our city, our family, you can find all of our contact information on our website, legendsofshield.com. We have a voicemail line, 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube by searching for Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. And you can hit us up on our forums, forums.GonnaGeek.com, or you can search for GonnaGeek on the Tapatalk app.
This time on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we're going to welcome back Keir to the podcast. We're going to talk about our Ant-Man Marvel Crate giveaway. We're going to talk about Daredevil. We're going to run down your weekly comic book news on your S.H.I.E.L.D. number 9 report and Neil's Mighty Marvel Moment. We're going to run down your Marvel news of the week and your feedback. Keir, welcome back to the podcast, sir.
Hey, my lanyard was right here on the hook where I left it. Sweet.
Who gave you a lanyard? Wait, how did that happen? Haley, was that you?
No, he stole Jay's.
Well, I made it myself. I just drew my face on a little piece of paper with some crayons, and I just used some double-sided tape. It's pretty accurate.
It just says, I do what I want.
That reminds me. I need to find somebody to make me that chest of badges that they had.
Koenig's badge for every occasion.
I know. And Haley she's on video tonight. I know you guys can't see it, but she held up her badge, which was signed by Ming-Na, so she wins.
Queen of the podcast.
Yes.
Is that what it says on there? Queen of the podcast?
It says, to Haley, and then the squiggle that is her name, with a little heart sign, and then it says Agent May.
Okay, you win.
Because she hearts me, not you. Ha ha ha.
Oh.
Well, Keir, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad you have your lanyard, even though it was homemade. And there's something to be said about that. You know, it shows creativity, ingenuity.
I'm a crafty bastard.
The fact that he owns a lot of glitter. Don't know why.
Do you have glitter on your TARDIS in your backyard?
I save all the glitter that I come across, or anything that the vacuum bag picks up, and I keep it. Well, you can't really get rid of it, so I might as well just jar it.
If you can't get rid of it, corral it.
Right.
So basically your lanyard is made up of carpet glitter and chicken feathers, is what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Just another night at the strip bar, I suppose.
What kind of strip bar are you going to?
A foul one.
Ah! Ding, ding, ding.
Visions of Keir had a strip bar actually working at one. It just danced by. I just need. We need to move on.
And then he's covering himself with a chicken.
Can you see like a Gonzo and Camilla routine?
Okay. So with that, I'm going to lead into our Ant-Man Marvel Crate giveaway. And
I can't even see the rails from where we are right now.
I know. It was so far off.
I can hear them, though.
So we have this Marvel Crate to give away, and I need to give it away to somebody. I don't care where I have to send it. I'll even send it somewhere in the solar system at this point in time. I'll pay to ship it off the planet. So all you have to do is do what, Lauren?
What you need to do is in some form, whether it be on Twitter, on a review, on a forum comment, calling in, whatever you want to do, emailing, carrier pigeon. If you were to perhaps send in a letter attached to a penguin or an otter or a possum, I would really appreciate it. But what you need to do is send us your funny review of Ant-Man. You know us, you know our sense of humor. It needs to make us laugh.
The funnier it is, the higher you go in the priority to get it. So we'll be running this until the end of September. So about the time that we start up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we will be giving away the Ant-Man Marvel crate. And then we'll move on to something else because we have a lot of cool stuff to give away. So can't wait for that. All right. We all watched it again. I assume it was like the 50th time for Keir since he watches it in the kitchen all the time. But we watched Daredevil. It was pretty cool, wasn't it?
It involved a daredevil.
It did.
They kept it real true to form.
I'm not sure I like the horns.
You know, the thing is, I really do think the Devil of Hell's Kitchen is a cooler name.
Yeah.
That is kind of true. It doesn't roll off the tongue very quickly, but it has more impact.
Well, you could call him just the devil when you needed to, but when you really wanted to strike fear into people's hearts, Devil of Hell's Kitchen.
Plus, it reminds me of like the cryptid or something, like, ooh, it's the Jersey Devil.
No.
I just really like the way the Devil of Hell's Kitchen sounds, and I understood why they had to change it to Daredevil, because that's what the series called, and that's what he's been for like 30 years.
Like 50.
Oh my god, time. But I think it sounded better.
It did. So I took a look at the IMDb for the episode, and I also watched the credits, and I noticed that the episode was written and directed by this little-known guy. I have no idea why he got the job, Stephen S. Tonight.
Yay!
It was his parting gift.
He's never going to make it.
What's he doing now, by the way? Because he's not doing Daredevil Season 2.
Oh, my phone is charging, so I can't check IMDb.
Well, maybe somebody in the chat knows. In the meantime, yes, it was Daredevil. I'm not saying that in double. It was the series Daredevil, episode name Daredevil. It just gets me all the time, Daredevil. In which we do see Daredevil, but it was, in comparison to the last 2 or 3 episodes, this is really fast paced.
Well, understandably so. I mean, the tension levels had been ramping at a pretty consistent climb. This wasn't some sort of exponential increase. They had been building us up, so that it wasn't as if we hit the highway at full speed coming into this, but all of the pieces in place, or I should say, all the spinning plates that we had going on, I'm trying to pick the right metaphor here, had gotten to their full spin. And now when you start to see the certain ones wobble that you want to wobble, and Fisk's empire is on shaky ground and everything is now in motion, I feel that it justifies some of the rushes that we got through the preceding 2, 3 episodes and sets the bar. Well, the bar has been set so that we can just continue to run through this one full tilt and you don't notice the fact that you've been kind of holding your breath for a few minutes at a time.
Just a little bit. I gotta go to the bathroom. No, wait, I can't. I gotta go to the bathroom. Oh, wait, I can't. I gotta watch this. So that was good.
Even on the rewatches, if you can't even pause it to go fill your popcorn bowl or something in the middle of a rewatch, that's good television.
Right. So ATGN podcast in the room, which is Mr. Chris Farrell, said Stephen S. Tonight is in the writer's room for Transformers, and then some, I don't know, whack job called Hansen Girl said that Tonight is working on a TV movie called Incursion set to come out in 2017. So that is what Tonight is doing after Daredevil. I mean, what do you do after the best TV series ever? Well, you
go back and you make another season of Spartacus where this time everyone's alive again and they're going in through the future and they're just killing their way through history. That's what you do.
They're going to make it to Rome this time, guys.
They are.
So I did watch the rest of Atlantis, Keir, by the way, which aired on BBC America. I know you were very loathsome to tell me that it had been canceled. So the rest of it aired this summer. And yes, we do get to see the Argo shove off, but that's it. And then it stops. So I'm like, oh, they really needed one more season for that. They need another season for Daredevil. We're going to get one sometime next year. The date has not been out for it yet, but it is awesome.
Yep.
It is. I mean, we're going to get Jessica Jones, and are we going to get Daredevil next, or is it going to be Iron Fist next?
I don't know, actually.
Yeah, so we'll see that when it comes out.
I think they've been moving farther forward with Iron Fist at this point. It's probably closer to the point where they can start doing some pre-production, get their principal locations chosen, things of that sort for Crew A and Crew B. As far as second season of Daredevil, I don't think they've moved farther forward than just some casting rumors at this point.
No, they've been filming.
Yeah, because we've seen, what's his name? Bernthal as the Punisher.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, it brings up one of the points that I wanted to kind of address now that I guess, can we technically do a little bit of a season look back now that we're at the final episode? I just found it very interesting. Again, this is probably because of the development nature of this particular series or how the series came to pass and the way that it was handed over to Netflix and how it was ended up getting put into the public hands. Such an interesting choice that they ended the season without any sort of definitive cliffhanger. And it just kind of, has a button at the end and you just kind of say, well, all right, well, he's found his niche. He's committed to it now. And Fisk is, for the moment, stowed away, has his pensive stare at the wall as the lights fade out. But it almost feels as if they were ready to say, okay, we may only get one shot at this.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what it was, because I don't think it was renewed for season 2 until, I can't remember the timeline, but it was like 2 days after it had come out and all the ratings started to come out about how many people were actually watching it on Netflix, how many people were talking about that sort of thing. So I do think that they didn't know for sure, other than that they wanted to bring him back for Defenders, but they didn't know if they were going to have a Daredevil series again. So I think you're right about that. And it kind of reminded me of the Defiant. As we record this, Defiance has just ended the previous weekend. It's a show that I podcast on the Sci-Fi Channel. And it ended in a place where you could leave it and there was still more with it as well. I want to liken the two seasons, the Defiant Season 3 and the Daredevil Season 1, as the same in how it ended. There's still more story to tell, but you could leave it how it is and move on with your life without having to spend the rest of your life developing headcanon and writing fan fiction and stuff like that to bring it to an end.
Yeah, it's just interesting to make that call or to have that forethought, because there are so many series that just, it seems as if the intent is to just beg for renewal and put something out there that intentionally hangs that hook so that you can get at least some of the fan base to come forward and say, no, please, you have to save this, or you have to make sure that this continues because look, we're fully invested in this incomplete arc or what have you. I consider it to be a little bit of a risk these days to take something and just say, no, we're just going to give it the one series, tell our story and be done with it. Seems like everything is always swinging for the fences, from literature to television to film series to everything. Everyone just wants to see it continue forever because they're looking for the next big franchise.
Not everything can be Doctor Who.
Doctor Who can't often be Doctor Who.
Yeah, true. But in this particular one, in the Daredevil season finale, you do get Matt, Karen, and Foggy back together again as the trio. It was a little bit different, though, because Foggy definitely was targeting Marcy, and you had that little thing, hand-holding thing between Matt and Karen at the end.
Right, and her little flicker of acknowledgement. So yeah, the dynamic among them is all entirely changed. We got the band back together, but the band isn't quite the same anymore for their experiences apart.
Whose secret do you think will come out first, Matt's or Karen's?
I think Karen's.
Okay.
Secret to the world or to their little band?
To each other.
Oh, back and forth? Yeah, I think it's Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah, because right now it's Karen who's trying to keep her secret on her own, as opposed to Matt, who has now Foggy keeping it for him as well. Which I guess from one point of view you could be like, okay, it's the whole two men can keep a secret if one of them's dead thing. But on the other hand, it's two people making a concerted effort to distract and keep somebody away from noticing something instead of one person trying to keep two people from noticing.
Unless we just never really address Karen's secret again and she just swallows it.
There was too much laid on the table on her. I mean, Ferris brought it up before of what kind of background that she really had. And ever since he said that, I've been noticing more and more about Karen. They laid a huge Easter egg for a follow-on series or whatever. And I don't know if it's going to be season 2. I don't know if it's going to come out in Defenders. I don't know when it's going to come out, but it's obvious they plan for it to come out. So Leland, if I remembered this, Leland's scene was a little bit more towards the end than the beginning, but it was like within the first 10, 15 minutes and he was out. But
well, probably because the first time you watched it, you watched several episodes at once, so it seemed like it was at the end.
Yeah.
I did. I watched it in 2 days, so...
Eventually, they are going to start producing, Netflix is going to start doing these things as the true binge cut, where they actually cut the intro and outro credits and just run the story nonstop for 8 hours and 20 minutes?
Oh, wow.
Wouldn't that be something?
Well, the credits on this are really long.
Yeah.
The end credits or the beginning credits?
The end credits.
I never actually watched the end credits.
Neither did I. I fast-forwarded through them.
On this particular one, I made sure I went to the end because I wanted to see if they had a little thing on there that said Daredevil would be back in 2016 or whatever. They did not. Because at the time they didn't know, as we already discussed.
I think the first and last episodes, my first watch through, were the only time I ever watched the credits. And this time I didn't even bother. It's like, episode's over, stop, put out a tweet, and turn off the TV and go do something else.
I think the credits on this particular one, and I can't remember the running time, but it was 1 minute, 57 seconds. And because that was the time left on my Netflix slider bar as I was watching it here in the office. So that's pretty long, but the actual credits run about, 50 minutes or so, and then it goes into those foreign language credits. So they redo the credits a little bit faster, but they redo the credits in at least 3 different languages.
Mm-hmm.
Spanish, Mandarin, I assume it's Mandarin. I don't speak any of those languages, so I don't know for sure. And I believe maybe, I want to say Japanese and German, but I'm not sure about that.
Those would all make sense.
So, yeah, Leland, he had a little guts coming to it. He was like, okay, this is the way it's going to be. I'm going to leave. I'm going to take half your money, but you're going to get half and everything's going to be fine.
Because he thought he was dealing with a reasonable man.
Yeah. It turns out you were dealing with angry Wilson Fisk, and you just said, hey, I am kind of responsible for the near death of somebody you liked, and
who was nearly your son. Yeah.
Right.
And the death of somebody else. So basically, this guy, he made a terrible decision.
Yeah, don't bring logic to a crazy fight.
What he should have done was just taken his half of the money and left. That's all he should have done.
He should have followed Gao out of town.
Yes, but no, he has to stick around and try to think he's more clever than he really is. And we saw how that worked out for him.
Super great.
Seriously, Leland, do you remember, maybe I guess he wasn't there, that time that Anatoly got his head smashed off?
But I think he was there when he was cleaning the car.
Okay. So you'd think he would remember some of these object lessons.
Mm. I don't know. The scene itself is a little inconsistent in terms of his assuredness versus his inherent fear of Fisk.
I think he just thinks he's smarter than he really is. I think that he thinks Fisk's priorities are different than they really are. I think he's used to thinking of other people's priorities in terms of his own.
But yet, from the start of the conversation, he's shaking and sweating.
Because Fisk is scary. But then at the same time, he's like, no, I have the upper hand here. I have all the money. I have access to this money. Money is important. And then he forgets that, Fisk is not going to be bullied.
Well, in his defense, I don't think he would have known that the taser would not have worked on Fisk.
That too!
I mean, any normal person taser would work on, even a big person.
Unless you're on PCP. And then you just kind of ignore it.
Right. Well, and he must have had enough adrenaline in his system to ignore it over the anger of Leland hurting and Gao hurting Vanessa.
Did you notice there was the crony standing at the back of the alley?
Yes.
Watching.
It was the same guy that Fisk had beat up a couple episodes ago, too.
And yet he doesn't move a muscle when Leland first goes after Fisk. I think at that point, what exactly are you guarding? What are you there for?
Hoping that Leland is going to talk Fisk into reason and knowing that if it doesn't work, then you're just going to have to clean up the mess.
I'm walking out of here with whoever wins.
Exactly. That's what I'd be like. I'm not picking a side here. These are the two guys. This was the evil League of Evil dissolved in this episode.
Mm.
Yep, it is well and truly gone. Now everybody's either dead or scattered to the winds or in prison.
I was kind of hoping Leland would get a better death, though. Just getting shoved down an elevator shaft, it just didn't. He made it to the end, the Russians got schmooshed, and so I expected Leland, because of all his conniving, and especially because of everything that he had done to wrong Fisk, that he would have gotten some horrific, just painstaking kind of slaughter, something really befitting the vengeance of the Kingpin.
Yeah, he was coming out on that, but I think maybe they had one less episode to deal with than they really wanted to, because they had other heavy-hitting stuff to get to. I mean, they had the whole Hoffman thing that they had to resolve after that.
It might have just been a time thing, or maybe for whatever reason, the effect didn't work.
I figured that at that moment where Fisk realizes that Leland was responsible for the attack on Vanessa.
Or even, like, if you want to look at it from kind of a meta wave, given just the information that we have available on screen, his frustration at not being able to do this more visceral revenge is what makes him just even more angry. He just feels his anger in his fight against Daredevil later.
So I like probably about half the scenes that Hoffman was in, more than half. His face was covered in that blood splatter all over his head.
Mm-hmm.
So he was walking around with, half red head. It was interesting. There was nowhere for him to go. He's dead either way. Eventually he will die. He's not going to be allowed to live. So it's a question of, do you want to die right now or in a couple weeks?
You have any items left on your bucket list?
Might as well go through them. Yeah. Oh, and I don't know if it was shown before this episode, but this definitely was the Stan Lee cameo behind the sergeant's desk.
Yeah. I don't think I picked up on that the first time I watched it through. This time I got it. It does not hurt that I read the IMDb trivia before watching the episode.
Well, I picked up on it in the first rewatch, and then I went back this rewatch, and I was looking for it sooner than this episode, and I did not see it before now. Now, it might have been there. I just might not have noticed it, but it was definitely this episode that we get the Stan Lee cameo. And of course, what we're talking about is his picture behind the sergeant's desk up on the wall. That was it. We didn't actually see Stan Lee on camera. It was a picture.
Right, which probably qualifies for one of the most subtle Stan Lee inclusions in any Marvel content. Short of maybe seeing his name in a phone book or something flashing past the screen.
Would you say that this was more or less of a cameo as Big Hero 6?
Less.
Less?
Okay.
I'm sorry. Obviously, you're paying attention to the stingers these days. Who does not pay attention to the stingers? And you get something where you've got the iconic voice. I think that's far more than just a still frame photograph behind a desk.
Yeah. Talking about stingers, my son, Sandrock, went to go see Ant-Man finally without me. And that's fine. I saw him before he did anyway. So he saw it a couple of weeks ago. And he had to leave to go to the bathroom after the first mid-credit scene or before credit scene. It was mid-credit scene. And he's texting me, is there a post-credit scene? Yes. And he tried to rush from the bathroom in, but he missed it. He's like, dang it.
Oh.
I'm like, well, you might be able to find it on YouTube. Good luck. So if you're watching a comic book movie, always stay till the end, all the way through the credits, all the way.
There's a good resource site out there that just tells you for any film that's currently in the theaters whether or not to stick around for stingers.
You're talking about a 19-year-old boy. He's not going to go do that.
Oh, no, because kids don't consult their phones for anything.
No.
You could do it during the credits. Jeez.
He's more interested in texting the girls on the phone. So
multitasking.
After Hoffman goes in, the FBI rolls up Turk, the cops, the newspaper reporter, editor, whatever she was, Landman and Zach, partners, the senator, and then Fisk. Oh, they miss one, at least, another FBI agent. Who knows how many other people are out there? There are probably people in the prison that he's in.
Sure. The question is, when you leave something like this, so obviously the lock them away forever approach, the question then becomes, how long do you let him sit in the box before you decide to revive the character again?
About a month.
Now, I don't think they're going to touch him for the entirety of season 2.
Agreed.
You want to make sure that's just put on ice, see how the dynamic works by bringing some other baddies into the rotation. And then when you want things to get super crazy, bring him back.
Okay. You know who needs to be the bad guy for Defenders?
Who?
Wilson Fisk riding Fin Fang Foom, the giant green dragon.
Okay.
I mean, if you're going to do it, just go all out. This is what I want. Also, I've been rereading Next Wave.
So we also get to see the suit, right? This is where we get to see, and it looks a lot like the Ben Affleck suit in color and style or whatever. So it's a more traditional, I guess, Daredevil suit, but it had its own attributes. And the black will protect well, and the red, well, might deflect a knife. And it did pretty good against a pipe or a rebar or whatever.
Right.
Better than his Under Armour did.
That's true. Sorry, Fruit of the Loom. But yes, I guess rebar being swung downward, although impaling could have been more effective. But
It would have.
that's just not Fisk's style.
No, it's not. He likes to beat on you, or at least this version.
Did we have sparks flying at a couple of points? Did they actually do the spark effect, or was that just in my head? I kept seeing the flashes of...
I didn't see any sparks.
There might have been
Okay.
a little bit.
Yeah, I wasn't sure when it was striking the plate whether or not
Yeah.
we were getting...
I did, however, see when he went to go pick up the costume, the schematics for Gladiator's buzzsaw.
Oh, nice.
Did not catch that.
Yeah, I saw it. I was like, I know what that is. I know what that is.
So what an incredible fight. It did justice. If you think about the fights in the series, I don't know if it was the best, but it was a good fight.
I was thinking about that last night. I think that Daredevil versus Nobu is probably my favorite fight from the series. Either that or the hallway fight.
Yeah.
Just favorite one-on-one fight, I would say Daredevil versus Nobu. But
Right.
this fight was pretty good in terms of just the sheer emotion of it. Plus just this feeling of like vindication of, yeah, he's wearing the costume, he's got the sticks.
This is what it needed to be when these two finally squared off. Because it wasn't something where it was our hero takes a beating until he's almost down and comes back. And, we've already done that with Matt. We've had the get up Matty moments from early on. This needed to be something where the emotional investment on both sides was at its absolute peak. They are both, as far as they see it, fighting for the future of their city. This is the physical embodiment of both of their states of mental being after all of this buildup. So the fact that neither one of them really ever has an upper hand, neither one of them is at the point where there's not that tricky moment where, I'm gonna play possum here and then suddenly come back at you because you let your guard down because you got cocky, or any of those cliches. This was just a slugfest where their hearts were in it. And I think that's exactly what they needed.
Mm-hmm. It was definitely climactic. It was final, at least for the series, especially after the whole motorcade issue and everything. Fisk is obviously going off to Vanessa, and she's forced to leave without him. And
Okay, quick aside, is it just me or is her ring really ugly? Like, it looks like costume jewelry. And I'm just there like, I know it's supposed to be huge and gaudy and expensive, but there's something to be said for taste.
He isn't necessarily a high class. He's just well-to-do.
Yeah, given his apartment and his wardrobe, and you'd think that it bugs me. It's like, okay, and I know this is a terrible example because it's not even something that I like, but the engagement ring in Twilight is this huge gaudy cheese grater of a mess. And it's like somebody was like, oh, lots of huge diamonds means it's awesome. And it's like, no, you've got to account for taste in these sorts of things. You need to know how to cut gems and how to arrange them. And this thing, I mean, yeah, if you want knuckle dusters, the ring that Vanessa gets is pretty good, but it looks like a ring pop.
Here's the thing. Wilson Fisk is not a classy guy. He's new money. So he's wealthy, but he's not necessarily classy.
okay, so 3 things. First of all, you have no idea what special powers that ring actually has within it. So you don't know if it's a weapon, defense, a shield. You have no idea. So that's one.
It's one of the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, it could be. Number 2, Wesley isn't around anymore to pick it out for him.
That's true. He lost his class.
Okay, good point. Wesley was his taste.
So there's that. And then,
So basically, like, okay, you know how in Hannibal Lecter's prison cell is covered in all these tasteful drawings and things. Wilson Fisk's prison cell is going to be covered in velvet paintings of Elvis.
I think he likes the rabbit in the snowstorm effect. Number 3 is I'm pretty sure that the intern in charge of getting the good ring from Tiffany's just failed miserably at the task. So they had to go to a pop machine or whatever in a Walmart to get it out.
He went to one of those quarter dispensers,
Yeah, right.
got one there, and he pocketed the rest of the money they gave him for a ring.
So good on you, intern. Way to use company money well.
Here you go, boss.
So basically that's it. That's the finale. We had one heck of an episode all the way up to the end, and you had the little montage at the end and everything, and we're set to go.
I'm going to say one sort of look back statement here, and this only applies because this kind of caps what I'll consider to be like the back nine of this series, is that I finally can come to terms with Foggy.
Okay. You've been having problems with Foggy.
I did. The whole first half of the season, I had a lot of problems, not necessarily with the character or what they had written for him, but the way he was actually being portrayed. He seemed a little overly goofy. And it wasn't until they really got to some of the key emotional investment for the character where he really is forced to put aside the foggy face. You get the foggy face.
Foggy Bear.
Exactly. And you start to get something, and it draws more from the actor, and I'm hoping that is, now that they have established that, or that they have unearthed that, and because of the fact that now the character has the full breadth and knowledge of what's really going on under the surface, well, as far as he is let inside that loop, we'll get a more consistent and, in my estimation, a more enjoyable character from here on out, thankfully.
Well, hopefully. Just one last thing. Fisk's Bible story, as he was recanting that he is the ill intent.
Yeah, how much does that remind you of Pulp Fiction?
That was exactly where they were going with it. Anytime you want to really force some villainous drama, go biblical.
Yeah, pretty much.
Especially from Fisk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just the way that his voice got just so angry and growly. Again, I really, really love Vincent D'Onofrio in this series. He was just the perfect choice.
Would not have chosen him from the get-go, but he definitely did a great job.
Set the bar awfully high.
And then, as far as his mask, Kingpin's mask, he wasn't moving around too well. They had to put the ladder on the truck. They had to help him up and down the truck. And when he was running down the alley, he looked like he was a bear stumbling down.
I think I brought this up a while ago. Somebody was like, why don't fanfic authors write more Wilson Fisk and Vanessa fanfic? And someone was like, I think it's because Wilson Fisk looks like a giant baby. And when he was running, that's all I could think of. Just this giant toddler just kind of weeble wobbling back and forth because he runs like a weirdo.
Well, see, I was going back in my head to Edgar in Men in Black.
Edgar suit.
He kind of shambles too.
Maybe it's not a character choice. Maybe that's just him.
I think that's just how Vinny runs. I call him Vinny now. We're friends.
I bet he doesn't do a whole lot of running at all.
Not with a body like that.
I am not fast.
Oh, Baymax is Kingpin.
Oh my God, there's your cosplay crossover. Oh, King Max or Baypin.
Oh my God, it's adorable and disturbing. Oh.
Okay. Is there anything, Haley, that you want to say about this episode before we get to the quotes?
No, we've talked about pretty much everything.
Lauren?
I am not fast.
Okay. Keir?
Nope.
All right.
I'm good.
You're on, Haley.
You go after him in the mask again, he might kill you. Or you'll kill him, which will probably have the same effect on someone as Catholic as you.
That's true.
And that's it. I didn't have very many quotes.
Oh, there you go.
I am the ill intent.
That's my other choice for the because of this week.
That would have been good. I mean, that was the most impactful dialogue, I think, of the episode. So there you go. We have spent our summer. We're wrapping it up before Labor Day, so technically this was our summer project, and we're done with it. Of course, the podcast won't be out for a couple of weeks. Sorry about that, but we have had a hoot doing it. Thank you very much, Keir. Thank you very much to everybody that has come on and enjoyed Daredevil with us. Keir, you get to be the last Yahoo or hoo-ha or whatever in the...
A hoo-ha is something completely different from a Yahoo.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you get to be the last word in our guess for Daredevil, so do you have anything that you would like to say?
Get thee to confession. That's all.
Yes, sir.
Especially after the hoo-ha comparison.
Yeah. The last hoo-ha on Earth. That's the new series on CBS.
All right, so...
The secret, it's a fleshlight.
Again?
Plot twist.
All right, so we're going to go into some comic book news really quick. So we have been blessed with a couple of awesome comic book segments. Both Adam and Neil phoned in, and they have some stuff. So first of all, we're going to start with Adam's S.H.I.E.L.D. mission report for 9. You guys ready?
Yes.
Let's do it.
This is Consultant Black Adam with your mission report for S.H.I.E.L.D. Issue 9. This is the first of 6 weeks in a row containing at least one comic centered around S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. issue 9 is a special jumbo issue containing 3 different stories. The first story features Phil Coulson. After he finds a scrap of an old mission report from Nick Fury Sr., he gets put on the trail of a mystery that ties the modern S.H.I.E.L.D. into a much older mythology. The story alternates between scenes of Nick Fury Sr.'s mission in an older art style and Coulson's investigation in a modern style. What Coulson finds may lead to him becoming the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D., whether he wants to be or not. The best part of this story is a double splash page featuring the core team from the show and Maria Hill breaking into a safe house. The second story features Maria Hill activating a life model decoy of Dum Dum Dugan. In the comics, he died in 1966, but Nick Fury Sr. transferred his memories into a series of life model decoys until the original Sin storyline. Maria Hill found and reactivated one of the LMDs to lead a new team of Howling Commandos featuring a werewolf and the zombie of Agent Sitwell. I wasn't as much of a fan of this. The art was okay, but I don't really like monster stories. This was a setup for the new Howling Commandos of S.H.I.E.L.D. series that will start up in October. The last story is a reprint of the original appearance of S.H.I.E.L.D. from 1965. S.H.I.E.L.D. is attempting to recruit Nick Fury, assuming they can get to him before Hydra assassinates him. It's easy to tell that this comic comes from the 60s, because the dialogue and art are both extremely campy. It's interesting from a historical perspective, but not all that great from a modern one. And now on to the news. In my last mission report, I gave the preview for the Mockingbird one-shot for S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 50th anniversary, so this time I'll give the rest of them plus S.H.I.E.L.D. number 10. On September 9th, the Quake one-shot will be released, featuring a family reunion, learning why Quake makes the perfect agent for S.H.I.E.L.D. When a group of Inhumans get involved, Quake finds out exactly how far she'll go to finish a mission. September 16th will feature the release of the Agent Carter one-shot. Agent Carter is back in an all-new adventure that reveals her secret history with S.H.I.E.L.D. When Dum Dum Dugan attempts to recruit her to S.H.I.E.L.D., will Peggy join up or go her own way? Both the Nick Fury one-shot and S.H.I.E.L.D. number 10 will be released on September 23rd. The Nick Fury one-shot features a mission 50 years in the making. When a villain from the past shows up in the present day, Nick Fury is forced to team up with Nick Fury Sr. Will the Nick Fury of the present be able to work alongside his father? And then S.H.I.E.L.D. issue 10 features Howard the Duck side by side with S.H.I.E.L.D. Why a duck? Because Coulson knows a secret about Howard that could save the multiverse. September will wrap up with the Cavalry one-shot on September 30th. Discover the explosive secrets that are hiding in Agent May's past. When Agent May leads a team of new recruits on a training mission, will she be able to save the day when everything goes wrong? Did someone say cyber wolves? I'll see you guys next week with my next mission report.
Adam, thank you very much. That's awesome. I can't wait to read the comic books that are coming up. That is awesome. Thank you for cluing us in on S.H.I.E.L.D. Mission Report 9 and the upcoming comics. It's going to be great. You got me so excited. I am so excited I have Comixology to read all this stuff now, too. And then, as always, Mr. Neil has come up with his weekly Mighty Marvel moment. He did so on vacation, so this was a sacrifice for him to do it. You know, read comic books on vacation, you know, twist my arm.
It's pretty rough.
So here we go.
Hi agents, Neil here with your Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel moment covering new releases from August 26, 2015. There are some great issues out this week that I guarantee you don't want to miss. So what are we waiting for? Let's get into it. As usual, let's start outside the Secret Wars continuity. First up this week is Last Days of Ant-Man number 1. Okay, this book was a real surprise and went in a couple of directions I did not expect. The cameos by some Golden Age heroes and villains was a real treat leading up to the inevitable incursion event that kicks off Secret Wars. For Ant-Man fans, you're gonna get some really touching scenes balanced off against some classic Scott Lang facepalm moments. Spider-Woman number 10, Last Days, concludes the story of Jessica Drew, Ben Urich, and the Porcupine as they wrap up their adventure in Dodge City, Kansas, juxtaposed on the start of Secret Wars. This issue highlights why Jessica left the Avengers and what it means to be an Avenger. It's a somber ending, but hang in there, Spider-Woman is definitely coming back after Secret Wars when the bulk of the Marvel titles relaunch. Magneto number 21 is another Last Days issue with story by Colin Bunn and art by Paul Davidson, and it's an absolutely gorgeous issue that brings the appropriate weight to a story befitting such an iconic character. Bunn's use of flashback, looking at Magneto's role as both savior and villain, is beautifully done, and I had to sit back and reflect upon the story more than once. If you're a fan of Magneto and a struggle for mutant kind, this book is for you. And finally, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 9 also came out this week, but as usual, I'm going to leave it to Agent Black Adam to give you all the juicy details on that one. Now, let's dive back into Secret Wars. If you're a Carol Danvers fan, then you don't want to miss Captain Marvel and the Carol Corps number 3. Carol and the Banshee Squad are officially on the run, and this issue is chock full of great aerial combat. The choice of the color palette won't resonate with some people, but I found it engaging, and the book builds to another great climax, setting up what's sure to be a huge next issue. Deadpool's Secret Wars number 4 wraps up Deadpool's look back at what really happened in the original Secret Wars. And while it does bring us the usual Deadpool zaniness, it balances it off against some serious moments that lets you see that deep down below the iconic red costume, there could be the heart of a hero. Deep down, like really deep. All I can say is that I'm going to be sad to say goodbye to that glorious Tom Selleck mustache. Hank Johnson, Agent of Hydra number 1, is a new book that gives us a tongue-in-cheek look behind the curtain at the lives of Hydra agents and how they deal with everything from the crushing bureaucracy inside Hydra to how they deal with the death of one of their own following a raid by Nick Fury. This book is guest written by David Mandel, the current showrunner of the HBO series Veep, and whose writing credits include SNL and Seinfeld. As you'd expect, this issue focuses on comedy, but not at the expense of telling a fun little story that will have you empathizing for the other side. Old Man Logan number 4 is another standout issue by writer Brian Michael Bendis with art by Andrea Sorrentino, and it's my pick of the week this week. While the man out of time trope was hinting at becoming a bit stale last issue, despite it being used again, the dynamic panel layout and sheer energy that is conveyed by the story kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time as Logan struggled for survival beyond the shield wall. Marvel Zombies number 3 continues the story of Elsa Bloodstone as she tries to survive beyond the shield wall as well. This episode gives us another look back at her past, while she struggles to deal with a horde of intelligent zombies kept alive by a rather unique sort of nourishment. This title has continued to impress me, and I definitely recommend it. E is for Extension number 3 also dropped this week, and we're faced with an army of beasts who descend on the remnants of the divided X-Men. This book draws heavily on the deep and complex history of the X-Men to set up an intertwined web of conflict, and I actually found myself confused at times. That said, Ramon Villalobos' art is beautiful, and this book is generating a ton of hype, so if you're a fan of mutant kind, this book could be for you. MODOK Assassin number 4 brings us more action and mayhem in the Killville corner of Battleworld, as the mental organism designed only for killing and the Thor version of Angela Asgard's assassin fight to stay alive. I'm actually loving the interplay between MODOK, classic Doctor Strange villains, and Shroud, a character who really grabbed me in the current run of Daredevil. This book has gone from a joke to a serious story, and I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but I'm going to be sad to see it end when Secret Wars wraps up. And finally, Where Monsters Dwell number 4 also came out this week, continuing the story of the World War I flying ace, the Phantom Eagle, from the golden age of comics. However, I haven't been following this story, so head over to the forums and tell me what I'm missing. That's it for new releases. Now let's dive into the long boxes, where we crack open the Mylar and take a look at a classic back issue. This week, my long box pick is Hawkeye number 1 from 1983, the first issue in the original 4-part miniseries that would set the tone for Hawkeye for years to come. Hawkeye has often stood apart from many of the other Avengers, and in this series, we see him working for Cross Industries in a private security role. We also get to see his first meeting with Bobby Morse, aka Mockingbird. While this series does feel like it's ripped right from the 80s, and many of the secondary villains were easily forgettable, this issue and the entire miniseries are an important chapter in Hawkeye's emergence as a top-tier Marvel character. Again, that's Hawkeye number 1 from 1983's Hawkeye miniseries. That's it for this week, folks. As always, if I've missed a release, head over to the forums and share your thoughts, or send in a voicemail to the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. crew. Later, guys!
awesome as always, Neil. That was great.
Okay, seriously, Neil, where do you find the time to read all these comics? Because I love comics and I have no time.
I know. And he goes through all of them. And he has time to summarize them and come up with witty things to tell you about them.
Yeah, so he's like reading and taking notes.
That's way beyond any podcasting about a TV show that I've ever done. What do you think, Keir?
I'm pretty sure he has a Zaphod second head, so that he's probably recording with one while reading another.
He has a time turner.
There you go.
Yeah.
If I had a time turner, I would use it to take naps.
Oh my God, yes.
Absolutely.
If I had a time turner, I would go back in time so that I would know the spots where, like, frogs have been, and I would go and I would be there to catch the frogs.
You know, I'll use the time turner and then I'll make later Haley go to work. But I would just end up with like 3 napping Haleys in my bed and nobody at work.
You really see how people's priorities fall when you start discussing hypothetical time travel here. I've got napping and frogs.
I like frogs.
Okay.
I made friends with one yesterday.
Not as friendly as you were with the lizard today.
Well, I mean, that lizard was a perv.
So thank you very much, Adam and Neil, both. Thank you very much for getting this on a monthly, weekly basis. We love it. We want to hear more about it. So you guys ready for some news?
Ready?
Yay!
I like news.
Well, the big story of the week happened to come out a couple hours ago. I saw it fly by my screen at work and was like, what's with this? And then I was like, oh, I'll read it when I get home. And I got home, I read it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is big. So yes, there is a shakeup at Marvel Studios and Disney.
Yeah. So, okay. First of all, I almost fell off my chair there. First of all, it was reported yesterday in the news that Kevin Feige is now reporting directly to the head of Disney, whose name I know, Alan Horn. He's no longer reporting to Ike Perlmutter, who's the Marvel Entertainment CEO. And when I heard this, I'm like, I think this could be a good thing, because apparently Ike Perlmutter is notoriously just really picky and like just nitpicky and everything. And according to this article from comicbook.com, he has a reputation for being controlling and frugal, a reputation Marvel Studios has earned in spite of the massive scope and budgets of its films. Earlier this year, reports emerged that Perlmutter was unhappy with Marvel's publishing side, promoting Fantastic Four and X-Men comics while parent company Disney didn't own the film rights. So, you might remember we talked about this, and it seems that things kind of came to a head, and Kevin Feige is like, you know what? I can't work like this. And speaking of can't work like this, at just a couple of hours ago, I was getting ready to eat dinner when I saw this. Not only is Kevin Feige no longer reporting to Ike Perlmutter, but the Marvel Creative Committee has been shut down.
Yep.
What the Marvel Creative Committee is a group of people, including Brian Michael Bendis, who's a writer, Joe Quesada, who is the chief something officer, CCO, whatever that stands for.
Creative, maybe.
Creative officer.
Yeah, something like that. Jeff Loeb, who runs the TV stuff, publisher Dan Buckley, and what their job was to kind of oversee all of the movie stuff. It was this committee that would oversee everything. And again, I think this is a good thing, because we've heard from directors who have left Marvel projects, who have finished directing Marvel projects, how everything was just creatively stifling. Ava DuVernay passed on Black Panther because she felt she wouldn't have had the creative opportunity she wanted. And, okay, it says here, again on comicbook.com, the creative committee was originally formed to keep the tones of the film close to comic books. Creators who actively worked on these characters for years had a say on how they portrayed in the films. And apparently, from one report that I read, it tended to become bogged down in things like the science side of the movies, as opposed to, does this work as a movie?
Well, it has the potential to do better things, but it had always been portrayed in news stories before that it was a conflict between Kevin Feige and the director or producer, and not the committee and the director producer. And of course, what we're talking about is Edgar Wright and Joss Whedon, who have come out of their project saying, you know, it was creative differences, which is obviously somewhere between this committee and Kevin Feige. I'm worried, though, that it is specifically Kevin Feige and not the creative committee that was the issue.
See, I'm more inclined to put it down to a committee than to one single person, because in my experience, when you have a whole bunch of people all trying to throw in their opinions on a big project, you're really likely to get a mess, because it's everybody wanting their opinions and everybody fighting, trying to get this thing heard and this thing heard and that thing heard. And in some cases, it's a good thing. But when you're somebody who's trying to do something creative, it can be extremely stifling.
That's true, but you've got to realize there has to be a median in there somewhere, because the reason why you want this committee in the first place is to keep some consistency, to sort of maintain a level of quality or some sort of a, as mentioned in your own synopsis there, that there's a tonality that stays true throughout them. And when you think back on the really successful run that they've had to date, you know, a couple bumps along the way, but there has been a tone where their more successful enterprises are ones that look like they have been cut from the same cloth. And despite, you know, who was, you know, on the other side of the camera, you know, or who your final executive team was, probably because even if it was a painful process and there may have been some scar tissue as a result of it, because it went through this, you know, it ran this gauntlet through this committee and got sliced and diced and put back together again. Maybe it is a little big for his britches right now, or maybe it is getting a little difficult for directors to throw something entirely new into the mix. But I don't know if freewheeling it is entirely the answer.
No, I don't think freewheeling it is the answer, but I think having fewer people to report to, a smaller chain of command, is, I think, a better answer than having this huge squabbling, micromanaging chain of command, where you have the one person that you're reporting to who is reporting directly to the person at the top, as opposed to you report to this person who reports to this committee, who reports to, or you report to the committee who reports to this person, who reports to this person, who reports to Disney.
Fewer cooks in the kitchen.
Exactly.
Well, hopefully it works out. I mean, we have another, 12 movies in the next few years, so at least 10. I'm trying to remember the exact amount that was scheduled. I think it's 10 at this point in time.
We have double-digit movies at this point.
So we also have some news about
Luke Cage.
So what we got, Lauren?
Okay, this, again, announced very recently. I was eating dinner when I saw this.
Did you choke?
No, but I did squeal. Rosario Dawson will be officially reprising her role as Claire Temple. Yay! And this, of course, does make sense because Claire Temple, the character, was a romantic interest of Luke Cage in the comics. And Theo Rossi, who I know from Sons of Anarchy as Juice, is going to be joining as an antagonist. He's going to be playing Shades, aka Alvarez, a criminal. So, yes, again, everything I hear about the cast has me excited, but that's been pretty much every Marvel movie or project so far.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I really hope Theo Rossi has a, better, happier character arc than he did in Sons of Anarchy. But since he's playing a bad guy, probably not.
We'll see. We'll see. Got a lot of goodness coming up. Jessica Jones, of course, in December timeframe.
The sad thing is, I'm pretty sure we won't see nearly as much of his butt as we did in Sons of Anarchy. And that is a shame.
Well, we all know it's about the butt, right?
Yeah.
Do make sure that you include the other little supplemental point about casting here.
Oh my god! Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to throw this in there because I knew it was going to make Lauren kind of fall again.
Yes. Okay. Keir, just put this.
Just go ahead, breathe.
Misty Knight is going to appear in Luke Cage. Misty Knight is awesome. In the comics, she's a cop with a bionic arm, and she and Danny Rand get hook up.
Given to her by Tony Stark.
Yeah, the bionic arm, not, she is not given to Danny Rand by Tony Stark. But no, she gets the bionic arm from Tony Stark. But she's a cop with a cybernetic arm, and she's awesome, and she and Danny Rand hook up, and in the current Secret War, Secret Love comic, they have a daughter whose name is Lucy, named after Luke Cage, which is adorable because Luke Cage and Jessica Jones's daughter is named Danielle, Danny, after Danny Rand. It's just the cutest bromance. But anyway, no, Misty Knight is awesome. She's a martial artist. She can shoot. She can just beat you up. She has a bionic arm. She's just, oh my, I can't wait to see who they have play her. It's going to be amazing.
I love how excited you get over this stuff, because if we were talking Robotech and like the new Robotech series coming out or whatever, I'd get that excited about Robotech. So I love seeing that excitement in anybody. It's great. And talking about excitement about new things, you know, there's a new Muppet show that's going to come on ABC on the 22nd of September.
God, I'm so excited.
And then like a week apart from that, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comes out. And guess what? They've been doing a lot of cross promotions. We got a great one between the Muppets and Clark Gregg. And I love how Fonzie actually spells out the Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
It's
name.
the Agents of S.H.I.
But yes, it's about a 30-second promo, and it's Pepe the Prawn trying to get plot details from Clark Gregg. It's adorable. I love Clark Gregg. I love Pepe the Prawn. I can't wait for both of these shows. I just
love Agent Animal too. That's great. So that's it. That's it for the news this week. And we're going to move on to some feedback. We got some Twitter feedback this week, which is great. Richard at Kodiak GWC, always throwing us the stories and everything. And one thing that he stirred up some little controversy this week is 2 competing articles saying whether Star Wars is going to flop or do $600 million. So awesome. Love the comments on Twitter on that. And so basically we're going in between Wing and Haley in terms of how much Star Wars is going to make that opening weekend.
All the money.
All the money.
Keir, did you ever say how much Star Wars was going to make that first weekend?
I just want to see a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Numbers really mean very little to me as a viewer. You know, numbers, reviews, any of those things. Go tell me a story.
Well, it's just a bet in the GonnaGeek network, that's all. I mean, that's why we're talking about it.
It will make sums of money more than I have seen.
Okay, that's true. I wouldn't have seen any of it. Although, what was that movie, Lauren, that you pulled up that made like $29 and one was a ticket for an orangutan that was refunded or something like that?
I can't remember.
It's like the worst opening ever.
Yeah, now I got to double check.
Okay, so thank you very much at Kodiak GWC for that. And then also, he tweeted us an article about the Civil War storyline and how he wasn't liking it. It's IO9, so thank you very much for that. We also got an email from Andy. This is the last email that he sent. He sent it on April 19th, so the weekend that Daredevil came out. And it was on episode 13, Always the Sneaky Accountants. Oh, right. He got tossed down the elevator shaft. I'm assuming whatever Fisk told Vanessa will come back in season 2. Yes, we didn't talk about that. Fisk did inform Vanessa to do a few things and make sure she understood it. And then actually preferring Murdoch's black costume, and felt bad for Fisk when Matt beat him up. Andy, what planet are you on?
See, Andy gets invested in the villains. He understands the value of a villain that you can commiserate with. Not necessarily agree with, but at least commiserate with. So the beatdown, maybe he preferred to just have a clever capture without as much of a fisticuffs. I don't know, sort of outsmart him instead of just outpound him.
That would be an interesting debate, by the way. The evolution of Loki in Marvel versus the evolution of Kingpin in Marvel. See which evolved better. I would say that while Loki is a fun guy to watch on camera, that Kingpin is the most relatable out of the two because you understand where he's at.
By all means, yeah.
All right. There's a ton of ways to contact us. Please get us your feedback. We love it. We love talking back and forth to you guys. And I know Haley likes it, right, Haley?
Yeah. Get in touch with us. All of our ways. Our voicemail line, 844-THE-BUS-1, 844-843-2871. And remember that by sending in that feedback right now and telling us how much you liked Ant-Man, you'll be entered to win our Marvel Loot Crate. Or not Loot Crate. The other crate. It's cool, though.
Yeah.
You want it. There's good stuff in there.
A Marvel Ant-Man crate. There's a lot of good stuff. Both Haley and I have one. I think, Lauren, you have one too, right?
Marvel crate?
Yep.
I had one. I have not got a subscription because...
Oh, I see. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Trying to save some money.
You should enter to win the competition.
I think you should. I would agree with Haley, and I think Keir would agree with me that
I would feel like I'm cheating.
Well, I bet you'd vote for you. Then you just got to sway one of us to vote for you, and we can be bribed.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for everybody that comes in and listens live on Mixlr and YouTube. We really appreciate you coming in and listening.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Keir, Mom.
It's supposed to be Steven's mom, not Keir's mom, but thanks, Keir's mom.
Steven's mom is busy at night.
Yeah, I think it was the FIFA movie that was like really terrible and one person came in and then they got a refund.
Yeah.
It says Adam in the chat. He says FIFA movie. I know that came up in some podcast. Okay. Anyway, thank you everybody in the chat, everybody on Twitter. Am I live tweeting anything next week?
Yes,
If you want to.
doing the X-Men movie, right?
Okay, then next week I will be live tweeting X-Men First Class.
Yes.
Yes, be prepared for Charles Xavier Magneto slash.
Are you going to start at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, or are you going to move that up for next week because it's the movie versus a TV show?
I'll probably keep it at the same time.
Okay, so 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Lauren will be live tweeting on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. X-Men First Class, which if I have a chance, I'm going to be watching that. It's going to be fun.
I think next week we should do a dramatic reading of some X-Men fanfic.
I can ask some authors and see if they will.
Sounds good to me.
Well, I was thinking we could just find some Xavier Magneto /fic.
Yeah.
Only if you agree to make it a overly dramatic reading.
I don't know how else to do it, but okay.
As I mentioned before, thank you very much, Keir, for coming on. We really appreciate your insights, your humor, and your voice with us on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. as we watch Daredevil.
Thank you, sir. It was great to have this opportunity. You knew from the jump when we first started watching this series that I was all over it, so I appreciate the opportunity to spew.
You were the second person to approach us as wanting in, but you were definitely the most persistent. So
I'm good like that.
We had a blast with everybody on here. It's great. And hopefully that will continue on as we move ahead with all of the Marvel properties. So yes, next week we will be watching X-Men First Class, and we'll be moving on to a few X-Men movies before the season starts. So thank you very much. And until next time, I'm Agent Stargate Pioneer.
I'm Agent Haley.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Keir, turning in my lanyard.
Oh, it's like homework. He's giving us his homework.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
The dog chewed on it.
Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to GonnaGeek.com and you'll find all of our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod and can be found at incompetech.com. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual host and do not represent Legends, Stream, or GonnaGeek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the property of the Disney Corporation. No infringement is intended.
All right, Keir, can you hear? Yeah, talk a little bit, Keir, and let's see if the ladies.
Yes, sir. I am here and I am talking.
Ladies, could you hear him?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you hear the lady say yes?
Yes.
All right. So now you wouldn't hear the YouTube video if I played it. Sorry.
There's a YouTube video?
Yeah, I just played it. Apparently you didn't hear it.
Good job. Eating a Hot Pocket is such an unpleasant experience.
It is. You would think that
See, the thing is, I used to love them in high school, but I think that might have been because it was the only non-cafeteria food I would eat on weekdays.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're not good.
Well, and it just like burns the shit out of your mouth.
The microwave is the lie. Just don't. As much as you just want to save the time doing the microwave, if you actually do bake it.
You said bake.
If I didn't use my microwave, I would starve.
Nope, that won't. I'm good with it. I'm getting jiggy with it.
Na 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 na.
Na 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 na.
Boop, boop, boop.
That was my song in like second grade.
I can't even remember listening to anything in second grade.
Do I have an intro to this? No, I don't. Here we go. Let's start the broadcast.
It's a final countdown.
Played that one in band.
Broadcast has been successfully terminated.